All right. Too bad that, you know, I thought a scanner could do that easy. Me? Oh, let's see, what's the name? Yeah, I can. Bill, well, I just think we're up there. Said she left the message on my phone. I'll read it. You know, I got more. I've got more in my book. Sure. I didn't write it complete. But I got it. Oh, yeah.
Good morning. Thank you all for coming, and I appreciate Steve Race and Boy Scout Troop number 772 for raising the flag today. If you don't want to gather around, if you're warm, you could get into the shade a little bit. If you really need to get some water, there's water inside the credit union, and we'll have refreshments at the end. We hope to have a short ceremony here. Thank you for being here to remember the 1903 Esmond Train Wreck. I'm Wanda Hammonds. I'm the branch manager of the Rita branch of Pyramid Credit Union. And it's been fascinating to me to explore a little bit of history about the crash that happened 102 years ago on January 28th. Some of our Rita Ranch residents should be recognized for their part in setting this marker in the ground at this site. Dennis Morissette, Justin Lee and his son Mason, Trey Benson, John Simpson and his son Devin. And we'll have some pictures inside. We might credit a postal employee, Leo Gomez, who works inside the Pyramid Credit Union office in the post office with setting this in motion. Leo was interested in the train bed that runs through the property all the way through the Fry's buildings going on over there. And he mentioned it to Louis Wagner, who's a researcher of the Old West, and this is Louis Wagner. And I want to welcome Louis, who will say a few words, and also introduce Tucson writer and historian William Culp III. And there are others here who know of this and have been interested in it for quite a while. And if there's anyone after these two gentlemen speak who would like to say anything about this for just a few minutes, your interest or your part in what you know, feel free. And then at the end we'll have a song by Susan Wagner, and we'll go inside for some refreshments. Louis?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for being here today. As you know, my name is Louis Wagner, and I am a historian of the Old West. And it wasn't too long ago that one of the postal workers here in Pyramid Credit Union brought to my attention, his name is Leo Gomez, brought to my attention about a tragedy that happened here on January 28, 1903. As I began to research this tragic incident of this head-on collision that was done by two trains, one coming from El Paso, one coming out of Tucson, which I nicknamed the Titanic of Tucson, I realized that there was an undetermined amount of people who were killed on this site where we stand right now. I also realized as I researched the material on it, and as I walked on the train site, which is directly behind you, and I found many artifacts just laying on top of the ground that showed evidence of the train crash itself, which happened on this site and, of course, on the other side of Fry's as two trains collided. I realized that not only would that property be gone within another year, but that nobody ever took the time to erect a memorial for all those people who died that night. So with myself and the help of Wanda Hammond from Pyramid Credit Union and a handful of good volunteers from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and of course your support, that monument laying right there in the ground was made possible. I'd like to also introduce a young lady that is a surprise visit here today. There was a Mr. Latham who was supposed to show from Mesa, but unfortunately he had to go on an operation done for gallstones, and he wasn't able to be here. But one of his family members was killed on the train on the other side of the street over there. But surprisingly, one of his family members showed up here today, and her name is Sue Treader, and she's related to Mr. Latham and of course to the same person who was killed on that train, and she'd like to say just Oscar Stewart, and she'd like to say just a few words.
This is a surprise in more ways than one. My great-grandfather is Oscar Marion Stewart. He, as everybody here seems to know, was on his way to comfort his daughter-in-law, Elsie, who was, whose husband had been hurt in another train wreck. Oscar was living in Mesa at the time. He was a polygamist. He had two families. And so he was living with one and sent a note to the other family saying that I have to go to Bisbee and bring Elsie back, kiss the children for me, and that was the last that our family ever heard of him. He was killed and evidently burned in the crash, no remains. And so we've lived with this mystery for years and years and years, and for our family, it really was the Titanic of Tucson. And so I can't tell you how happy I am and how happy my family will be to know that you were all here and that you made this possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Susan. I'd like to read off acknowledgments for those who supported me in this historic event, beginning with the post office, Melanie Hornback, Leo Gomez, historian-wise, myself, Ray McKnight, Mr. Bill Colt, who will be asked to speak next, Niall B. Latham, who unfortunately could not be here, Mr. James McGowan, Mr. Breen, Mr. Gene Kaywood, Kerry Sullivan, and Sue Treader. Members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints for their service hours, Mr. Dennis Morissette, who built the frame for the monument and donated bags of cement and helped form that, Mr. Justin Lee and his son Mason, Mr. John Simpson and his son Devin, and Trey Benson and myself. Of Pyramid Credit Union, Wanda Hammond and her staff, Lisa Biagi, Pam Miley, Fabian Salea, Laura Young, Megan Copson, Alicia Dryden, and Sherry Anderson. And of two local newspapers of Tucson, Arizona, Bonnie Henry of the Arizona Star, and Mr. Paul Allen of the Tucson Citizen. Now I'd like to turn the time over to Mr. Bill Colt.